So, very warm welcome to all you wonderful viewers of Universal Mentors Association's Digital Education Summit and Awards. I think this is going to be one of the most amazing panels of the day, the most sought out panels of the day, because we have the superheroes of higher education, talking about this next very, very important topic. So, without further ado, let me quickly introduce the topic to you. It's talking about creating a framework for developing research ready institutions to create global recognition and rankings. Uh, so, to start off with the panel, we have Mr. Naresh Duple, who's the head continuous improvement in marketing, Knauf Sealing Solutions, Knauf AMF, and Knauf Armstrong. We have Dr. Shriyari Onward, who's the Vice Chancellor of Sri Padampat University, Dr. B. Sendel Kumar, who's the Dean and Director of Health Sciences, Vinayaka Vision Research Foundation, deemed to be university, Mr. Sunil Somani, who's the Vice Chancellor of Oriental University, Indore. We have Dr. Balakrishna Shetty, Vice Chancellor of Siddhartha University. Dr. Shetty is also a practicing doctor alongside being the Vice Chancellor of this wonderful university. Then we have Professor Dr. M. Goel, who's the Vice Chancellor and founder of Neonomics School of Thought, StarX University. We have Mr. Jayant Krishna, who's the CEO Foundation of for Advancing Science and Technology and former CEO and COO of National Skill Development Corporation Skill India Mission. We have Ms. Naomi uh, Krishna Raja. If I haven't pronounced your name correctly, ma'am, please guide me. Uh, Dean Informatics Institute of Technology, Sri Lanka. Welcome, ma'am, on the board. We also have with us Mr. Neeraj. Uh, just a second. We also have Mr. Neeraj, who's the Dean, School of Architecture, Head Department of Architecture, Central University of Rajasthan. He was also, Vice Chancellor in charge of CURAJ, Dean Academics and Controller of Examination. Welcome, sir, to all the wonderful panelists on this amazing session. We have an hour's time. We can take the session up till 1 in the afternoon. So without further ado, Naresh, sir, I would request you to please take the session away. Thank you so much and have a wonderful session.
Thank you and good afternoon to everyone. Really, it's a pleasure to be part of this panel, and a few of us could speak with each other before the session. And the context which is created for this framework for developing a research-ready institutions to create a global recognition and ranking. And I remember something from my college days which talks about efficiency when I was studying engineering, And then when I was doing my MBA, it is all about being better than your former self than competing with anybody else. And that's the crux of innovation. So if we as a country doing something better than what we have done before, if we as an individual doing something we are not done before from our blind spots, we can say we are innovating, we are progressing. So with that context in the background, the challenge are unprecedented, if we got to say that, because the rate of change at which we are getting into AI, machine learning, metaverse, you talk about anything of those lines, many of us need to really understand what is happening around us. And before even we understand about it, things have changed at such a rapid pace that we as a community, as a human, are really struggling with it. Like 200 years back, if a boy need to know what he need to do for a living, he was pretty certain that he can do farming, he can do foundry and something like that. 50 years back, when industrial revolution was happening, maybe he get irrelevant in one job, but 3 to 4 years, he can get reskilled into something else. Now, I was heading a panel yesterday for international schools. We don't know what we need to teach our kids right now so that they will be relevant 20 years from now. Now, the challenge of research and global ranking and economical progress. There are multiple dimensions, and conference after conference, we've been speaking about this. So this one, my request is to go a little skin deeper. We can start with what are the challenges we really have for doing research in our country? Why we have failed to make an infrastructure research conducive is a subject we need to go and get an authentic picture on the table, such a way that we can get a solution at a very practical level of implementation. So it's a simple two-step process of understanding what's so about, and not like going with the European or American university, which has taken hundreds of years to come to this level. How can we as a country be there in 10 years? And if that is a motto, if we are going to put a seeds of those kind of thoughts in the minds of 450 leaders listening to us right now live, and we will take this session in social media to maybe thousands of other leaders in education sector. So I would really request each one of you to really be fearless or going a little deeper in terms of each of these questions we will get into. So all the conferences talks about how multidisciplinary approach of marketing, mechanical engineering, computer science, and we have Dr. Shetty with us, Bala Shetty, who is a doctor himself. So the merger of infotech and biotech has really threatened the world. The first time in the history of mankind, we have human ready to extend his lifetime by changing the organ like we do a maintenance for a car. And that's kind of innovation, that kind of research is currently done around us. And this kind of stuff has an impact on societal values, on liberty, equality, the gap between the countries who are progressing versus countries not progressing. And these all are relevant factors when we talk about research by an institute, by a university, or by a group of people around us. So any solution to technology is actually challenges we have to evolve with a global cooperation which we can come along with it. So it's not about copying a research happening in some developed nation, in our nation, and getting a PhD, right? That kind of stuff need to really stop. And can we make it more society beneficial? Can we make it more need-based? Example, IIT Kanpur was done with IIT being Kanpur being an industrial city, but it is not in the same way like in Europe, where people have really adopted Silicon Valley. Stanford has adopted Silicon Valley. So there are many facets of this. So, and with more divide happening on culture, religion, nationalism, the flow of information and real research has a very different approach to it. So this is what's so about it. Can we start with the first question, which I said, why do you think a university has failed to make a structure which is research conducive in this country? And this will be open forum. We can take one or two question feedback from any one of you. You can unmute and participate.
Good morning, Naresh ji. Dr. Somani from Oriental University, Indore. Your very first question is very relevant on today's topic as well, because it is the responsibility of the university to lead the industry for the research. We have seen that recently the government has also come up with so many guidelines, so many policies. Right now, say new education policies, all the way we have discussed a lot, where we have discussed that there will be basically different kinds of roles the university has to play. One is related with the research intensive university, or another maybe teaching intensive university, or a combination of hybrid kind of thing. But it is really the responsibility of the university to go for the research. And rightly said that if say US has done for 100 years and you expect everybody to do in 10 years. It's really difficult, but it's not even impossible, because when we see the growth of the companies and other things where say depending upon the their uh, volume, the biggest companies in the world, where Apple or Microsoft, they were established somewhere in 1975-76, whereas recently the Tesla and Facebook and Facebook, Nvidia, or some companies like this, they have the life of only 20 years, but they are far competitive in nature. So don't means we can do that in 10 years or 12 years. Only thing is, yes, there must be the zeal of that research oriented kind of thing. Though the global ranking and other things, they are combined with the requirement, which is compulsion for research. And we have seen in basically in our tenure itself that when for teachers it was made compulsion that you have to do post graduation, or you have to do NET, GATE, SLATE, or something like that, and then switch to PhD, and now it will come as postdoc and some new degree will come. But such compulsion doesn't fetch much value as far as research is concerned. It is the internal zeal of the individual faculty as well as the students. They have to come up with such infrastructure and motivation behind the research. Of course, there are number of problems which are always there, but I believe that the type of culture now developing amongst the student as well as the faculty as well as the promoters of the organization, mainly in the private university kind of thing, the research has taken a very big slot in their requirement, and they are coming up. Yes, the infrastructure is to be developed. At the same time, more collaboration is needed amongst the university or amongst the infrastructure which is lying say idle, because we have seen in IITs and renowned institutes as well, they have purchased one equipment which is used once in a year, but that equipment can be used by the other people as well. So that is needed, and definitely we will go ahead with such kind of solution. And there are a number of more things, but I expect that the other people are there. So let me speak first, then we'll again come back and we'll discuss. Thank you very much, Naresh.
Correct. And you touch very important aspects of human element, and the motivation and inspiration part of it. And that is one half of it. And we will have other panelists contributing other aspects. Yes, Hariom Sarji. You can unmute yourself and speak, sir. Yeah. Not audible.
Now, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for that. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that initial remarks and also initial expert opinions. Of course, research and skill. These are the two names I would like to say. These are two buzzwords going around everywhere, not only in the universities, but also in the industries as well as the government organizations. Everybody is selling. There is research, there is involvement, there is ranking, all those things you are talking about. First thing I would like to say, whether our students are not good in research, that is a question to be asked. If you see any international meeting, let us say it is global Olympics on math B or spelling B, who will be the winner? An Indian student will be the winner. And if you see in NASA, most of the engineers will be from India. And if you see many of the software companies, the CEOs, the Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, whom we talk about, they're all Indians. Then what's the problem? The question comes whether the seed is bad or the soil is bad. So when you talk about it, we feel the soil looks little uncomfortable or inconvenient for doing any research in this country. So why this problem? I would like to say with a couple of my own examples. I remember in 1989, 86 or 89, I was doing my radiology residency, that is MD in radiology. That time, the most innovative diagnostic technique that I invented was ultrasound scanning. Ultrasound scanning was initially utilized for detecting defects in aeroplanes and some steel materials and all those things. But later in 1989, it was invented for detecting human diseases and understanding various parts of the human body. And now it is the most important investigative tool in any medical examination. 89, I wanted to do a research on ultrasound. So the most important thing that is the initial periods of invention of ultrasound. I wanted to do some study on renal diseases, kidney diseases. And I told my professor that, sir, I want to do this research on ultrasound of renal diseases, especially for renal failure. Then at that time, then sir asked me how many references you have. I had collected 1 or 2 references because there are no references at all. So I said, sir, so many people have not done this research. So I showed about 2-3 references, which I had only for ultrasound, not for ultrasound of the kidneys. So immediately the professor said, oh, what is this, Dr. Shetty? You got only 2 to 3 references. How can you do research on these things? So my research work was, sabotaged, or it was rejected at the same time. Then I got upset. Then I said, okay, let me do another, because it was mandatory to present a project or a thesis work during MD examination. So then I took another research work that was on bone tumors. And that is about 150-year-old concept where we used to do X-rays. X-rays were detected in 1895. So in 1990, it is almost like 100-year-old technology. Then I said, sir, I'll do a research on bone tumors, X-ray of bone tumors. Then he said, ask me, where is the reference again? Once again, where is the reference? Then I showed the reference, 101. There are thousands of references on bone tumors because 100-year-old technology. So again, my professor told me, oh, so many references. And what research you want to do on these things? And that was also again rejected. So the first point I would like to know, I want to say, this is my experience. Our students are good. Our students are innovative. Our students would like to do a lot of research. And we need to, encourage them to do research. And every time when we want to do research, asking for 100 references, where is the reference? And where is my name? Mera naam kidhar hai? That's the usual, question the HODs or professors will ask a student before he does any research. Coming to the references, Dubey sir has clearly told me. Now, look at the references. When you want to do the references, when you want to give the references, which references you want to quote? I'll tell you a classical example, one more classical example. This is regarding typhoid infection. I wanted to do a research on typhoid infection. I studied about 150 patients with the typhoid infection, and I submitted that research paper to American Journal of Radiology, because those are times. This is about 1995. Those are times when we wanted to see that our publications are published only in American journals. So I presented to American Journal of Radiology. Then immediately, I know most of these Indian articles, anything which you do in healthcare, it will be rejected by these North American universities. So this journal rejected my publication. They're telling that it is not good. And initially, one letter I got telling that the English is not good. Immediately I told them, sir, this is not the thesis for English literature. This is the thesis which I'm submitting for healthcare and typhoid disease. And of course, English can be changed anytime because there are so many software to change your English grammar and English, all those things. Then they said, your paper is not good. However, somehow it was rejected. Then subsequently, I went to US for my higher studies for doing my scholarship in MD. At that time, I was working in one of the top universities like Baylor College of Medicine. And I showed one of the professors there about my research work. Then he was very much impressed with that research work. Then I told him, sir, I want this to be published. And the same project with one English American professor's name as an author. It was again submitted to the same journal. It was accepted within no time. So that is what is reference. So friends, what I'm telling is our students are good. Our students everything provided we give them the lot, give them the encouragement and support to do. Questions are making our students not to do any references, not to do any research. And our teaching parameters, our education is just like the, that is the English people. The English people have left their signature in each and every education parameters of our country, because English people wanted only clerks to be developed in this country. So we are always focusing on as a clerical job. We want to score marks and show that our marks are very good. They don't want any intellectuals. So what I'm telling is, this is what is the most focus. The overall ecosystem should change for research. It is not the technology. I will tell you, my students are very good in technology. It is not the technology. It is not the available of technology. It is only the encouragement, the support and motivation which is required rather than anything.
So we are coming back to the soft aspects of our culture as a society. And research is nothing but, are you ready to fail many times to invent that one, like Einstein said, I failed 1,000 times. Does our culture really appreciate failures? So, and I've done some basic work around my own experience on the ground last 5 years around sound and acoustics in healthcare and education. Both think as a country, we are really not present to the sound levels and dBs which are available around us. So Professor Neeraj Gupta, sir, from the Central University of Rajasthan, he's head of architecture department. I met him when I visited that campus under construction. And then we developed some real work around developing a national building code. In Australia and Europe, in US, we cannot start an institute if the sound parameters are not met. If the sending and receiving of the sound is not correct in the classroom, learning and education and connection doesn't happen. So sometime we will get the sharing from Neeraj sir about his experience on research which we did for developing a national building code. We went to 50 institute. We wanted to buy instrument on the names of from Central University of Rajasthan. We had a headway there. Then we went to NIT Nagpur. We have a madam from there who was involved in research around acoustics. So we connected with best of best in this country, developing a code and standard. Now implementation is second part. My own experience around research has been ups and downs in the way we did it, but we have a nice progressive ISI team who adopted the global standards around. Professor Neeraj Gupta, sir, you wanted to say about research and the developmental work. We also have NSDC head Jayant Krishnan, sir, and the skill development part, we can go into that direction about research in the country and the challenges we have. So structure.
Yeah, Naresh, just that I have a certain time constraint. I'll have to leave the session at 12:45, come what may, or something else. So if you could schedule it accordingly.
So that we can have more topics covered and we can go to the depth of the topics than just being on the surface level, saying the facts as it is at the first level is what I feel will add value to our audience going forward. Because like I said, we are best country for cricket because every nooks and corner kids are playing cricket. When kids in the schools, when they join engineering college, they are so enthusiastic. We kill their enthusiasm and put them into a box. And this is the mentality around which we need to work collectively, I feel. But anyway, we will just hear Neeraj sir first and then we come to you and Hariom sir.
Yeah, thanks, Naresh. I'll be very quick. I'll just take 2 minutes to get.
You are not audible, sir. Your volume can increase, or you can hold the mouthpiece near the mic near yourself.
While I adjusted, I guess you take another speaker. There is something I'm trying to speak. There's some connectivity issue here. So maybe the next speaker can take up and then now, am I audible now?
Yeah, a little better.
Now, is it better?
Yeah, far better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just quickly say that when Dr. Bala Shetty was talking, it was like as if, It was a mirror voice of my heart that he was talking about in terms of that research and the referencing and everything. So that is one challenge. One of the important things is that and I think that is an experience that we had working on this Armstrong ceiling base at that time, that a lot of work that we were doing in terms of sound and that research, it was not linked with any kind of a credit framework. There were no marks for it. It was just for fun. So people could tinker things and they could come up with their own answers for it. That is one part of it. The other thing was that very clearly we had identified a societal challenge in education system. So whole thing was very strategically focused. The challenge of research in our universities is that we do research for the sake of research, and and most of this research is research. I mean, there have been a debate that has been going on in the panel of university panels where one university scored very well. Another person is countering like 25% of the citations, they come from your own university. And this is what exactly Dr. Balashetty was talking about. You put one name there, you give some $85 or $350 for a good English by a native English writer, and the paper gets published. So we have to really understand that are we doing research which helps our society to improve our school conditions, improve the sound conditions in the school. That is what we worked on. And none of it was linked with any publication. A lot of people tell us that, why didn't you publish? I said, if I get into a publishing racket, I use that word, then I will not be doing justice with which this aim has been taken up. We were able to improve 15 schools at a cost of 5 days of salary in a heavily paid school or 15 days of salary in an ordinary school, and the audibility of the classrooms improved. None of it is published because there are two different things. So what I'm saying is that we have to build a research culture, and that research culture is important, that it is meant for societal goods, and that will lead to some good industry academia interaction. I'll stop here at this point, and I would rather listen to Dr. Jayant Krishna or anybody whom you deem fit, because I'm here till later on also. Yeah. And I'll further elaborate on it if I miss on something. Naresh, please do remind us.
Yeah, sure. So we can, so it's open for really building on where we are right now. In 20 minutes into our discussions, we have touched many areas. Shri Hari Hunawat sir, you want to build onto this and take it forward?
Well, I was hoping that so many senior colleagues, they will give me something to consolidate. It's been a very interesting discussion, and we are looking at challenges in terms of mindset, challenges in terms of our interpersonal skills, challenges in terms of our as you pointed out, our ability to accept failure. See, India has always been a hero worshipper. We have not been I mean, although the war of Mahabharata was won by the entire team, its success is attributed to the team leader or the hero. The hero still remains. So which means we do look for heroes, and that's possibly one of the things which we need to sort of undo a bit. We are happy with one Sachin Tendulkar scoring so many centuries rather than 11 members of the team, each one, none of them may may become the top number one in the world, but all 11 together put the team in number one position. I think we really need to overcome that. Let me start off by saying, why do we want to enter this race, which we are saying US is far ahead, or so is the Europe or the Western world, or maybe even now China is not far behind. We must have a race of our own. We really need to do things which are relevant to our own country. My PhD guide, since we are reminiscing, I mean, unfortunately, we lost him 2 weeks ago. He had this very interesting, coinage that research should be selected based on a principle known as NMCS, which is novelty, modulated, substantial, consolidated substantial research, which means that it has to be new, which is very much understandable. It has to be meaty enough, but we should know who is going to benefit from this research. A lot of researchers, especially even in the applied field, they do not have an end in sight. The end of the tunnel should be aware. You may only travel a couple of feet in the tunnel, and others will travel further from that. But you really need to know what's at the end of the tunnel and who is it going to benefit. That will bring in a sort of design thinking into the entire, the research process. And that's the race I believe we need to win. Many of my co-panelists have pointed out that we try to do research in areas which US is doing. You need to do that because you are in the race of publication. Today, even our universities are, are being measured on the same parameters. For example, an NIRF ranking, which is relevant to the non-research part of the university, that is your admissions, is based on your research output. So a lot of universities are going in and making sure that you publish and improve your and that game. We Indians are very good at looking at a system and how to break it, and we have started doing that. I think a research university, which we are envisaging in the new education policy, it's a entity which differentiates it from a teaching university, for example. I think most of us here would agree they can't be in isolated silos. Research and teaching, it's after all learning, right? We call it teaching, but I'm sure what happens in either a research institute or a learning teaching institute is learning by the students. So a research university in its framework should have a free passage. I'm sure some of my Dr. Bala Shetty, for example, will appreciate the kind of hurdles he faced while being within the institute, while being part of the group. Imagine what happens to people with ideas who are outside this university structure. Imagine what would happen to people who are needing these solutions and the university structure does not recognize them. I think these are issues which we must build into the framework of a research university, which we are saying, and the research university should have a coexistence or have a free, percolation of all external stakeholders, which essentially is the society, the industry, the rural part of our society. How will that happen? Unless, and the so-called teaching universities, the teaching universities should have research universities as a place where they can send their students for research. They can collaborate. The teachers could, be spending time in research universities and rejuvenating themselves and going back. So that continuous inflow and outflow of people and ideas, and the ability of the research university should then be the ground on which all such ideas are encouraged, and should have the heart for learning from failures, which you pointed out.
Thank you so much, sir.
I think that's where I will stop at this part of the thing. Maybe we will come back in case we.
Correct. We have time on.
So
we have two more members, Numi ma'am and Senthil Kumar hasn't really spoken yet, but since Jan Krishna sir wanted to go, and the topic is coming in the direction of industry working for research in collaboration. And we have an experiment with Neeraj Gupta sir for Central University for skill development of ceiling installation work happening for Adivasi students, and writing a course and taking some help from NSDC that time also. So with your experience, sir, what are the factors which are available in modern era? We can talk about history, what went wrong for hours together, nothing going to help us unless seeing what is available now, broadcasting it for the other universities to really collaborate well, use the resources. I feel money and resources is not a challenge in current era where we are at the level of a country. I love to believe that. So over to you, sir. How do you think the next step of overcoming this challenge and moving into a collaborative research where funding can come from CSR, where funding can come from companies who are working with university campuses, motivating students to really take a courageous step, not looking at a job, but also to really do a research at the level of research and have a guidance available for them, which is real-time, applicable, practical, implementation-oriented?
Sure. I think money is an important thing. We as a country, we spend just about 0.7% of our GDP on science and technology, research and development, which is the lowest among BRICS countries. US and South Korea, they spend about 2.84% of their GDP. We are very, very, if you look at our QS World University Rankings, only IIT Bombay features there among the top 200. If you look at the Bloomberg's Global Innovation Index, we rank 50th as a country, 48th as per, on intellectual property organization ranking. I think we in terms of world's talent index of instead business school, we rank 49th, and 9th we rank on research citations, impact, and as compared to US and China ranking 1 and 2. So I think on international intellectual property rights ranking by GIPC, we rank 40th. I think this we have to quickly look at. If we are the third largest economy by purchasing power parity, and in absolute terms also fifth or sixth largest economy in the country, why is it that all research rankings we continue to be so poor, despite the fact that we have about 1,000 universities, 10,000 science colleges, so many IITs, ISC, NITs, ICERs, and so on and so forth. We have the world's third largest base of startups, including so many unicorns, almost 200 labs of CSIR, ICR, DRDO, atomic energy, and all different categories put together. So I think the National Research Foundation has been announced in the new education policy with the funding of 50,000 crores spread over 3 years. And if you look at 12% to 15% of scientists in the UK and US and UK are immigrants from India. You look at doctors, NASA scientists, somebody talked about the IT, tech companies in the US, almost 12 out of 20, top 20, has Indians beyond Google and Microsoft and IBM. So many companies have Indians as their CEOs, and they are the people who had, by the way, had their first degree in India. I think we have to look at a the fundamental issue is the ease of doing science, ease of doing research in India continues to be so poor. Nobody measures it. PhD students are completely uncared for, sections of the academic fraternity. They're completely on their own. Very few of them would get an opportunity of a good handholding or a mentoring. So I think I am suggesting something more radical. See, if post-independence, if you look at our universities came in one universe, IITs and CSIR and other labs came in another university. If you world over, if you look at most of the science and technology labs are a part of the university system itself. Almost 70 to 80% of the labs in the world, they are a part of the university system. In our country, for some historical reasons, they were kept in two different universes. And as luck would have had it, one was under the education ministry, one was under the DBT or science and technology department or DST, and they never spoke to each other. They never interacted with each other. So at a time when all over the world, research is becoming more and more interdisciplinary, more and more cross-domain, our research people work in isolation, in silos, within an institute or within a lab or within a university without talking to each other. I'm actually, what we would like to recommend is, see, the problem is so grave that small tweaking the system here or there, increasing the stipend, increasing to the funding will not help. We need to do something radical. Why can't we form mega university clusters for one theme or one geography, and have some of them through a hard merger, some of them through a soft merger. We create a Section 8 company, not-for-profit company, and see, look at the labs. You have for every ministry, you have multiple labs working in the country, science and technology labs, but they are not, most of them are not even addressing the gravest challenge in that ministry and in that vertical in the country. If you look at the energy sector, power sector, the huge challenge how to reduce the transmission and distribution losses, huge challenge how to increase the, to optimize the plant load factor. But our labs continue to drift in their own direction. They are under different ministry, not even, so they are not. So if we have to make our universities and labs aligned with the national challenges, I think it's very, very important to bring them under the same umbrella. And some of them, could be, for example, just to give you the example of, let's say, Delhi. As somebody, and people understand that very clearly, around 10 to 12 science and technology focused institutes can form the cluster. IIT Delhi perhaps being the biggest and from an academic standpoint and reasonably good, if not world standard, maybe a few notches below. They have the research capability. They could take the leadership and ownership, and institutes such as the NII of DBT, NIP of ICMR, IGIP of CSIR. They can perhaps undergo a hard merger completely. There's no need for these three institutes to exist at separate entities. Whereas other bodies like All India Institute of Medical Sciences, like ISI, like IIIT and IIT Delhi, they can retain their this thing. But a lot of research and can have and I'm not saying core research. Core research will still happen at the entity level, but a lot of functions. If you have to raise, for example, a research strategy office, for example, international fundraising office, these kind of things are so important, which virtually either don't exist in our universities and labs or exist for the namesake. You may have an industrial liaison office, but their only job will be largely placement of students and nothing more. So why can't we bring, these for international collaborations, common funding body, engagement with the industry, research strategy, these functions virtually don't exist or exist in a very, very superficial form in most universities, in most, labs. And this layer will have a common thing, which will cater to the research requirements of many this thing, and unless you bring together, for example, the kind of problems I'm talking about, for example, the Ganges pollution, the Delhi and North Indian cities pollution, which nobody seems to have any answer to, solution of, Then what for we are research? As somebody said, we are doing research for research sake, and that's it, Research is not addressing the gravest problems of our country. You have to bring them together. You have to make research more collaborative. rather than research existing in isolated silos here and there. So I strongly believe that these kind of places you can take. Why is it that we don't have either doing research I talked about, it used to be poor. The kind of money we pay to the stipend we pay to our PhD students is far too less, and also it comes erratically. It does not come every month. The fund flow is so erratic. Whole anything that you look at is so it's see, why is it that since independence, there have not been any significant reforms in our science and technology institutions, be it a part of the university, be it a part of these labs? Nothing. I mean, we could think of reforming our economy in the early 90s. Why is it that nobody has thought about reforming science and technology? Perhaps there's not even a fully empowered institution within the government or a think tank which looks at science and technology reforms. Like, for example, creating university and lab clusters. I think we have to look at fundamental, and once you create these clusters, ease of doing business will improve, and ranking, because you'll have data accumulation beyond, research becoming more collaborative and easier, more funds getting raised. If we did some quick analysis, and the international ranking of this cluster led by, let's say, IIT Delhi in Delhi can go up very, very substantially internationally. So I think we have to look at the problem is so grave that small incremental improvements are not going to solve the problem. We have to think big. We have to think radical if we need to have solutions. I'll stop.
Thank you.
We'll be available for any Q&A.
Yeah, thank you, Jain sir. So we have around 20 minutes, 15, 16 minutes left with us. I would like to hear and move discussion toward, you have touched a lot of solution aspects of how we want to take it up. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah, you can. You are.
Solution aspects of it. So with Senthil Kumar sir and Nomi ma'am, can we really look at implementation part of it? The maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes of your view on that, and then we can take 1 minute each from each panelist to have a closing remark. This is how we will proceed for next 15 minutes. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Naresh. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Senthil Kumar. I'm Dean and Director of Health Sciences, Vinayak Mission Research Foundation, Bhimta University. So we are a health sciences university running we have 4 medical colleges under our university. So related to research, generally being in a university, that government of India come up with some implementation plan. They have started with the Institution Innovation Council. This is IIC, which is a Ministry of Education's baby. They started with. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. You are.
Yeah. So where the Institution Innovation Council, they have started with kind of implemented AICT institutions. We have to bring out some ideas for entrepreneurship, innovations, and startup and IPR activities among the students. So I think most of the engineering institutions, non-medical institutions, medical institutions, they have IIC, where you will have an ambassador program, which is the basic level and advanced level of ambassador programs, where it automatically it goes for mentoring the students as well. Even now, recently, the Ministry of Education, IIC, they have started with the mentoring the schools. They ask us to take responsible of 5 institutions, 5 schools, to take care of mentoring them in all aspects, irrespective of any kind of they want to have something in the research related, or they want to do it in academic side, or they want to do it in any patent or something. Like they start this kind of activities in school itself. So they asked us all the IIC institutions to go for mentoring the schools currently. And but the next one is as said by Sri sir, that you cannot have a separate research university and teaching university like that. We need to have a combined version of teaching and research should take place, because academic only they can do the research activities. And my thing is maybe we can collaborate in between the universities to inculcate the research activities because one university will have a good infrastructure and another university will have a lesser infrastructure. Probably like if you have a collaboration between the universities, probably like the research will takes place in a good manner. And collaborating with the incubation centers, you have a government incubation center and private incubation centers where you can get some pre-incubation center or like one kind of a branch of incubation center. Probably like you can invite the people from outside, and maybe like you can develop the research among the students as well as research scholars. And being in our university, we have a seed money project where we are inviting all the students, UG and PG students, and as well as the faculties to go for a seed money project where it's a 2 years project. We are sponsoring the students and the faculties to do kind of some research activities. And obviously, it has to go for a publications. So that has to be done because of the current, the education system place in India, because in NAC, they are showing the research is a main thing. Like, the criteria 3 says, like, they have given a 250 marks for a NAC accreditation. So obviously we have to go for publications and patents. So we are, making our students and faculties to go for a projects, take up a project, and we are sponsoring for the students. And as I said by Sunil sir, like, probably like, and Neeraj Gupta sir, like, probably like, we need to go for a industry and academia collaborations. Maybe we can expect, what exactly the industry expects from the academia, and in terms of research, probably like, we can ask our faculties and students, probably like, they can get into this kind of activities. Probably like, the research can come up well. So probably like, I would suggest industry academia collaboration, collaborating between the universities, and implementation of IIC, probably like, we can take up further. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And Nomi ma'am, coming to you. Sorry to keep you waiting for the whole session, but you got a full preview of what we are thinking as a panel, and informatics, technology. Everyone choosing to be an engineer and IT expert. At the level of schools, at the level of ground level.
Recording in progress.
This is what happened. If sound doesn't work, nothing works in the environment. So we as a country has produced a lot of engineers, doctors, hardly any science, research thinking mentality. Have we gone really wrong in our school systems? Have we not given the real role models for our students? Their enthusiasm getting killed when they come into a rote learning mechanism. How do we really change this? How do we really change this mindset at the level of a country, and what kind of measures we require? Can we teacher be more compassionate in teaching in the school? It was my research topic, around this, and how the grades improves and how the understanding of the subject improve. If you can articulate it well, if you can't really speak and connect, how does it will impact behavior and thinking, which is at the source of being mentally strong and being confident in yourself, not driven by society giving you norms. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, so I think in Sri Lanka also it's the same. We have a education system is more on rote learning, and students have to go for tuition, memorize, write, and I think it kills their creativity. Creative thinking is lost at the school level, where students should come up with projects and do creative work and think for themselves, articulate what they have done, which is not there at a school level, unless a student is like a games captain or a prefect or something else, but the curriculum doesn't support that. So I think we have to change the school system. But what we do when they come into the university, the first year is trying to break that rote learning and students to become self-sufficient, learning on their own. And even as they progress through the degree, how we transform them to be creative thinkers, because we give them problems to solve. They have to think of a problem, real world problem, solve them. we give them a chance to work in the industry. We have a internship, 1 year internship. So the student, when he comes back into final year of the course, we see a transformation, maturity. Someone has gone and seen what theory that is taught in class is used, whether it's used out there or whether it's not used out there. And then he brings a lot of value in creativity. And then we also bring always guest lecturers from industry, because we think only having academics will not give them a good flavor. So we bring in guest talks, tech talks from industry into the classroom, where students can see when they solve problems. And even research mentoring, we bring in uh, people from industry. So this changes the whole mindset of what we were talking just now, because otherwise we are just confined to our academic circle, and we are not allowing. And also we encourage students, when they do their research, to write to research groups outside. Sometimes it's beyond the national boundaries. It is other researchers, and sometimes they are interested in what the student is doing, and they give feedback, which is good. So sometimes crossing geographical boundaries, going national, beyond national boundaries, is very important when you're doing research, because it could be a solution, maybe not just to your country, it can be beyond. And then when the country gets a patent, it has a bigger value. And sometimes there are expatriates outside there of the same country who will also support in helping these researchers. So it's up to us to build these bridges and these links. As an education institute, we should expand our teaching and delivery methods, and also getting people, especially with this lockdown, we were able to get people from other countries logging in online and bringing in value into our
Yeah, you're
learning.
joining from Sri Lanka right now. So, yeah.
Yes. So we were able to add value, which made a big difference. Students were excited when they saw tech entrepreneurs from UK or USA coming in. They might be Sri Lankans, or they might be Indians, or they might be any other nationality, but it helped them to relate to the problems that they were dealing. So I think giving students a global perspective is very important. And I think our school systems have to change. Otherwise, we will have these root learners coming into the university, and we have to spend time in preparing them to progress, to get into the next level. And I think the enthusiasm is between staff and students. We have to build the enthusiasm of research culture between both. So when we tell the staff high impact journals value, so they would go not just for the university journals only, they will go beyond and do at international forums and things like that. So I think it's very important that we change the way the curriculum is taught. At least there should be some modules or content where creative insights can be brought in, relating to the other modules that they learned in the course, where they apply it. Applied learning will definitely make an impact and contribute later in the later stages of the student's life in research as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your real great action point oriented, doable things to address that very big problems around it. So we just have few minutes left with us. So maybe I can come to Neeraj Gupta sir, and every one of you giving 1 minute each, saying this is what will change this scenario. And this is what our temple of learning can be really upgraded to international standards. Neeraj Gupta sir.
Yeah, something very important pointed out by Naomi. We need to build capacity of the students right from the school level. There are, instead of writing essays, I think they should be writing project proposals, and that should be mentored by teachers who need to be trained. On the other hand, from the industry side, Naresh, this is something for you and maybe all the others. Probably all your sales team should have one KRA point, that how often do they go to college just to teach or educate the students on something like this. So that will kind of push, this otherwise I have seen that you get a, you everybody talks about industry should be talking and this and that, but they are all very busy. That's one thing. One of the important thing is to build the research culture and also the objectivity. So I would suggest that if every university in a system is able to identify the societal challenge or one good cause, that will make a difference in the lives of people. That will be the good thing. And I can cite that with great pleasure, that without trying to publish it also, the kind of collaboration that we had. I mean, I must share this a personal note that Naresh had come to sell ceiling to me. And I said, I'm not interested in ceilings. If you are interested in improving the quality of classrooms, then let us talk. And then things moved on. So point is, a salesperson in the industry is looking for local myopic targets, while academicians can give you a better, broader vision, which can really make a difference in the society. And that is, I think, critical for us. Language is a very, very big barrier. The way we were able to train the local village population who did not even know Marwadi, I mean, Hindi or English. And so that was, I mean, when we started, we never knew that the girls would be able to do the ceiling installation. So some of those myths and attitudes need to be broken. And in that case, like ma'am said, internship becomes very, very important. That's all I think. Say we need to really relook at the whole thing, identify our own strategies to collaborate. And industry has to change their mindset of quick results to a long-term association that can really yield concrete results in a particular direction. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we can go quick one after another. Munawat sir, then.
I will be very quick. I will raise an issue which I hope is not on the top priority for any of my colleagues here. Are we going to recreate a PhD factory as a research institute? I think this is a big and very important question we should ask, and answer would be yes and no. There will be PhDs generated, but that's not the end all, or what all of a research university. PhD should be just about 10% of what the research university does, and the remaining 90% has to be a lot more than
working with industries and having profit-oriented output coming out of it, which funds the organization.
A lot of things. Some profit-oriented, some non-profit-oriented, some esoteric, some which is
philosophical
research. And all of them should find a place on their desktop. If you,
we have a topic for a new panel discussion, Sandeep, for you.
Sure. Yeah. Jain Krishnan sir and Bala Sethi sir. And then
so I just summarize what I had said earlier.
The final remarks.
Create research clusters in our country, where the participating entities, they collectively align on research priorities of the country or the state or the region of the community. That's very important, and increase focus on a couple of thematic areas for each cluster so that they focus on, and these focus will be the MHRD universities under MHRD, as well as science and technology, biotechnology, and ICR, those kind of medical research bodies. Clusters will act as a voice of the participating entities with far greater role, in applying for international grants and funding and improving the ease of doing science. I think this is what I want to repeat, in a nutshell, what I had said earlier.
Correct. Dr. Sunil Somani sir.
Basically, with the establishment of, say, National Research Foundation and multidisciplinary education and research universities, with say 4 year of bachelor degree with research and so many initiatives, definitely it will pave a new way for all the academicians. That is one. And second is, what I believe is this patent commercialization is very important aspect, where the research will be converted into some commercial value by the university. The use of the internship basically in the industry with the basic aim of getting the exposure during the lifetime of the student. It's not after the third year or final year, something like that. It has to be started from the first year itself. So all these measures will definitely improve the things, and as rightly mentioned by the other speakers as well, that the percentage of GDP which is being taken up as research. Maybe in Israel, South Korea, Taiwan, they are spending a lot, and therefore you can see the changes, what products and other things they are coming up with that. So
Sure.
I admire those things that yes, with 0.65 or 0.7% of GDP, the India is lagging far behind than those countries. But gradually it will come up, and with the policies led by the leader, like already mentioned by one of the speaker, that one hero has to come. So something like Modi ji has to come forward for initiation of the research as well. Because I am from Indore, I know that from the Modi ji's view, that clean and neat. So we stood gradually, continuously for 5 times as the cleanest city in the country. So some slogan like this has to come up for research also, so that everybody will go for that. That's from my side, sir. Thank you.
That's an excellent note. I think Sandeep is raising his hand. We
Yes.
are over
So
extra time
yes.
by 4 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So just one, initiative, or one just thought that I've had, and this has been a common practice, and I've been thinking a lot about the Western world and how they support the research. Uh, First of all, this is a sad stat of Indian government universities specifically, that 80% of the money that is allotted to the university goes in the payments or the salaries of the people that they have employed. And with the 20% rest, how would you expect the funding to be there for the research? When you're talking about Western culture, or in fact the top economies of the world, wherever a industry face a problem, they look towards the university for a solution. Whether it was a COVID, there was Oxford University that came up with the medication. Whether it is any kind of a socio-political, any industry that faces in fact arms and ammunition, if there is a problem, they look towards the university. And in India, the university look towards the industry to bring up a solution, so that they can teach the students. It's happening in reverse in India. uh, Number three, I think the Indian education system has, because of being a non-profit organization, a lot of industrialists have been kept away from the education sector. Is what I really feel. You talk about all the top institutions across the world, they are all they all go through a very similar fundraising project that is being funded by private stakeholders, who go ahead and fund the fundraisers, and they enjoy certain benefits with the university. So I think a lot of private, and maybe if if we are not going that step ahead, at least we could allow some alumni of ours to reinvest in the education, to reinvest in the education system, and at least give them an ATC certificate. If they want to donate the money instead of an NGO, they could donate it to the university and try to enjoy the ATC purposes, so that the research facility is taken care of. So I think there are few simple solutions to a complicated problems. And if government takes on itself that only we are the ones who would be providing funding from a certain percentage of GDP, that's not going to happen. That is never going to happen, is what I actually feel. So with this, that is my kind submission towards, if you're looking towards research, it has to be internal, it has to be your alumni, it has to be fundraising, it has to be a corporate that has to fund the
Correct. And
university
we
to.
started this initiative, Sandeep, called My School, Best School. And few of the
Okay.
architect and contractor friend has gone back and changed the acoustics and the interior and the infrastructure where student and teachers are meeting. And there are case studies like JJ College of Architecture has been documented. And that can be the way forward where we are taking interest in our alma mater and contributing there and guiding them and changing them can be a quickest way. If let's say 10,000 leaders in this country adopt their own institute, within quarter or 6 months, we have transformation happening in this country in the way the quality and engagement and the connection with the reality can be built, and all the lot of parameter which we discussed in last 1 hour can get a different light. Sandeep, thank you so much for putting up this show and giving an opportunity to exchange minds out here, come up with some of the implementable ideas, and we will take this to a larger audience as we go ahead with. Yeah.
Hopefully, sir. Thank you so much. I think this was such a wonderful panel. Do we have anybody else to put up a point?
Wanted to say something as a closing remark by anyone?
So you said that already.
Yeah. Nomi ma'am wanted to say something. Yeah.
Ma'am, you're on mute. Naomi ma'am.
No, I think it was a wonderful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this amazing session. I believe our viewers enjoyed listening to all the legends of the education talking about the nitty-gritties of a research ready organization and what needs to be done in a research based organization or an institution rather. So hopefully you take something really back from the session. One small request to all the wonderful speakers that we have, please do spare some time for our sponsors and support Universal Mentors Association to keep bringing you such amazing panels and talks in the future as well. So hopefully you would have enjoyed the session as much as we all did. So have a great day ahead, and it's time for the next session to come in. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.